right, welcome everybody to the Midwest Brewer Review. We're back with another quarantined edition, I suppose. We're using Zoom, and we have a very special guest, Eric Flores, head brewer at Whiskey Hill. Eric, thanks for taking the time.
Oh man, happy to do it. A little bit of social interaction, don't get a lot of that these days.
For sure.
Staring at fucking tanks all day.
Yeah. How's everything going over there?
Everything's good, man. Just trying to bring everything together slowly. There's a lot of work in the beginning, just trying to set things up the way I wanted them, or a whole new kind of system profile that I wanted to implement so I could get things running. But other than that, and other than like 60-hour weeks every week, it's pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a lot of work. Speaking of just kind of setting up everything, Brian and I were kind of talking about the new position and everything, how you're coming over. Brian, did you have a question on that?
Yeah, I was just kind of curious how is everything coming from Goose and then going to, a smaller place like, way smaller place like Whiskey Hill. How's that changed for you? How's everything going so far? You mentioned that you had some setting up to do to make it the way you wanted it. So how's it all working out so far?
I think it's going pretty well, actually. I didn't have a lot of time to kind of have like a big shock from going to a bigger environment, like a small, more intimate brewery, because I just had to jump right in and get started as quick as possible. But now that I get to take a step back, now that things are a little more settled in, I get to realize a lot of the more kind of creative outlet that I have here. Now, Goose is pretty awesome with creative freedom on the pilot system. They let you do whatever you want as long as you set up a good case for things. But now here, I do it whether there's a good case for it or not, which is kind of fun. And the owner likes it too. He's like, "Yeah, man, fucking go for it, dude. Nice. Whatever you want. Throw candy in that shit or whatever you feel like." So that's been fun. And way I like to describe it now is now it doesn't really feel like I'm even going in and punching in and working a job. I just feel like I'm like homebrewing again.
That's awesome.
Nice. Yeah.
So speaking of which, so you moved into this position, then all of a sudden COVID-19 hit. So it must be crazy to jump into a position and then all of a sudden you have to deal with this as a brewer. So what's Whiskey Hill doing right now? What kind of specials or deals? What are you guys doing like throughout all this?
So right now we're still going pretty strong on crawler sales. We're doing $3 off on every crawler, and then when you buy 3, you get like another $3 off or something like that. Pretty cheap crawlers. It's coming out to like, I don't know, $11, $10 for each ones of like 32 ounces of 7.75% beers. So we're doing pretty good. Business hasn't slowed down significantly versus like taproom sales to just people taking out crawlers to go. We have a lot of really supportive locals around the area. Mechanics and just pretty much all the small business here get all their beer from here too. So people come in here buying like fucking 20 crawlers at a time.
That's
and
awesome.
It's hilarious. Yeah. Like
You're
you're going to need to wait like 30 minutes while we get those all ready.
You can definitely tell from the stickers behind you that you're at Whiskey Hill. That's for sure.
I actually never was here until like the second meeting me and the owner had. I'd never seen the place before.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's
so
a cool,
look at everything.
Location. Nice location, kind of nice and kind of cozy, and I know they just redid a lot of it too, which looked really nice. So yeah, we've been there quite a bit.
Cozy's a good way to put it. I'm used to having giant open floors. Everything is so far away, and giant squeegees to clean up giant messes. But now it's giant messes, and you got to clean them up in a small space, and you trip over everything. And I'm learning to do the dance around hoses and drains and shit and not die. So
Eric, so obviously it's not just you guys that are affected, your suppliers are too. We heard Omega closed or temporarily closed. Is that true?
Oh yeah, they did shut down for a while, and I think as of maybe yesterday or a couple days ago they sent a big old email, "We're back," like all caps, giant ass text. Nice. I was like, fuck yeah.
Is that your yeast of choice, or have you had any other issues with suppliers or anything like that?
Not really, no. Haven't had any issues with suppliers for grain or hops or anything else. So pretty fortunate for that. I'm able to just keep on going at it.
That's cool. So you haven't had to sacrifice anything that you wanted to do,
No, not at all, which I'm very happy about. Very fortunate for that.
We did have some of the first rounds of some of the beers that came out for you, and so I think Put a Light On, that was yours, right?
Yep, that's the first beer I made here, actually.
Nice. We really like that one. That was
Thank you.
Good. Yeah.
There you go. If you want to talk about the beer that was dropped off to us,
Yep.
I forget what the name of it is.
Project
Yeah,
One.
it's kind of hard with a name because I'm really bad at naming beers. Like I'll stay up a couple fucking days just trying to come up with them, and then you end up just coming up with like the simplest one after like 10 minutes eating food or on the shitter or something, and you come up with a better name than what you spend like 10 hours thinking about.
I know.
Yeah. So this one is Blend Project 1. It's just a blend of 3 different imperial stouts that I made. One of them were soaked with bourbon chips, and the other one was soaked with a different kind of bourbon chips, and then the other one was hit with a pretty hefty amount of toasted coconut. And I just kind of took a jar of each one of the beers, sat down and tasted them at different ratios, which is always fun because you taste a lot of beer before you know it, and they start all tasting a lot better, and you're wondering why. And that gets pretty interesting. But I start taking notes on different ratios and different mixes going on. I kind of like doing that a lot just for general blends and stuff. And
I gotta say that I took one sip of this beer, and it is ridiculously reminiscent of Bourbon County.
Really?
Nice. No, it's fantastic.
For sure. I agree.
I got that from a lot of people that you got like a lot of the oak coming through and a lot of the char that you can get and caramel kind of notes from the oak.
And generally, how long do you do boils for?
It depends on each one of them. The first one was a kind of homebrew just to try out a whole new grain bill that I was going for that was going to be the base for bourbon-soaked oak chip beers. I think I boiled that one for like 2.5 hours or something like that. So not super long, and it was more on accident because I had like a stuck thing going on when I was transferring it, such as the problem of homebrewing a lot. And then the other one, maybe about 4 hours, just because I had the time and I started early, which was never happened. I never start homebrews early, but this one I did. So I just let it keep on going down. And I think you get a nice amount of caramelization of the malt sugars going on once you get into that 3-4 hour kind of boil time. And then the other one was just like a 90-minute.
Yeah, we always joke about, or not joke, but we always like to get concerned about doing these big projects as a home brewer because, you know, you're throwing a lot of money and time into a smaller amount of beer. And, you know, compared to what you're doing, though, there's a lot more at stake. So it's kind of interesting. Are you drawing a lot from like home brewing or more from your previous job or is it kind of like a mix?
I'm getting a pretty good amount of the hot side. So it's just actually making the grains and boils and such, just from my own homebrew experience, really.
Mm-hmm.
I was always pretty meticulous about trying to control for different kind of flavors that are going on, like make the exact same beer but with only one different variable in it each time to see what that one thing can impart upon different batches. So I kind of like doing that, just playing around little experiments like that. So I'm able to bring that over here, which was fun. And then I bring a lot of the tasting and blending and adjuncting elements of what I learned professionally into that. So those two going together create a whole new system for me of experimenting on the hot side and kind of switching things up and then being able to bring a whole new element on the cold side when things are already done in terms of blending and adjuncts and stuff. So a little bit of
what a great spot to kind of cut your teeth at Goose too, especially for doing beers like these, you know?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I was lucky enough to learn from like who I think are some of the best people in terms of just their palates and what they taste and what different kind of blends from a same beer can taste like, because sometimes we would just taste through like hundreds of barrels of Bourbon County or 100 barrels of a sour beer, and we would all make pretty intense notes on tasting notes and different flavors that we all got, and just kind of butting heads a lot and kind of seeing what different barrels can get to the same beer, because they all kind of have their own personality to them. It's kind of what we always said as well.
So is there anything new coming up next for you, or are you going to be putting stuff in barrels or anything, any other experimental beers you're looking at working on? Or?
Oh, yeah, we're actually already in barrels. So I got a nice Weller barrel, super wet, super freshly dumped. I picked it up from Goose. They're always pretty nice and supportive about offering advice or little things like, you know, they put in giant barrel orders pretty much all the time. So for someone else to hop on and you pay the cost, that's not a big thing. Usually really friendly and sweet about that. Yeah, pretty awesome. So I got that in barrels.
It keeps your costs down too, right?
What's that? Oh yeah, that too.
Yeah.
I know Matt's happy about that, the owner. He gets happy about this company. But yeah, I got that. I have another batch of that stout that I put in barrels getting ready and cooked up, where I adjusted the grain bill a tiny bit just because I want like a bunch of different versions of it that have slight variables so I can blend them later on and make like another blend from different barrels. So I got that in the tank, and that'll get filled with about 3 more barrels. And then I have a big kind of more pastry style stout sitting in the fermenter right now. And I plan to be doing like a chocolate orbit cake style going on with that.
All
Yeah,
right.
so that one should be fun.
Cool.
Right on.
Billy, you have, since you didn't get the blend project 1, you didn't get to taste that one. Did you have
I feel
something else?
bogus. We're all just talking about it.
Well, I'll take your word for it. It sounds
Yeah.
delicious. Eric,
Well, you're drinking what?
I'm drinking a stout though, and Eric, I think you'll be familiar with this one.
The good old Kitty Memphis.
Yeah, buddy. So
Stuff is awesome, man.
yeah, this beer, I mean, Ricky really like came out of the gates firing, dude. And the reason I was drinking is because I wanted to. I know you did some work with him recently on it, and I was wondering if you could talk about that and how it is like collaborating with somebody like that.
Oh yeah, not a problem. Ricky is just super fucking creative guy, super friendly, always wants to make sure like everything that he puts into the beer is top of the line, and he can kind of get a nice amount of knowledge from all the different channels that he have, all the great people he's met. And when he decided to put something in a barrel, he kind of came to me, and I was really honored by that. It's pretty awesome, as such a talented guy as him would come and ask me for some advice. So it just started off with a couple basic things like, oh, what are kind of some good things to look for in a barrel? Just because there's so much that goes into it. People think a lot of people think that you can probably just throw any beer in a barrel and boom, it'll make it better, or magically turn a not great beer suddenly great. But there's so much more that goes into it. Just looking at the quality of it, how long it held that bourbon, what kind of bourbon it was, making sure the thing is adequately soaked, like the staves of it actually, and you get a little puddle of it too. Or just maintenance, seeing how often they might leak, or making sure that they won't leak just by maybe re-steaming it a little bit and trying to cause a vacuum to see if it will still suck in. You just brought a truck with like 3 barrels and dropped them off and came back. We steamed them together, made sure they were fine, make sure they would hold liquid properly, make sure they smelled delicious, and took notes and kind of see what kind of character each barrel had. And so that was really fun. We got them all prepared together, and then he took them the next day and filled them up.
Nice.
And now if he
not
wins
as
a
easy as you
FOBAB
think.
medal, and if he wins like gold at FOBAB and I get like silver, I'll be so fucking mad.
That was good
Yeah, I'm
stuff.
excited what he has to put out now, that kind of all on his own.
Yeah.
For
That's
sure.
kind of-
But
that's a
hey,
cool story.
Eric, this is about you and Whiskey Hill. So is there anything you want to discuss before we kind of let you go?
I think expect a lot of fun things that I talked about earlier, like a bunch of fun blends of different beers. Once I could drop like different kind of stouts, I plan to indicate what went into each separate blend, like whether it was I changed the grain bill up to make it a little more kind of biscuity and caramelly, and then I made another one to have more of that sweeter side going on, or if one was intended to be more kind of smoky and those dark licorice flavors. I intend to indicate what was in each one of them and why I had it blended a specific way as to how I wanted it to taste going forward. I always like that part of it too, and you can just take all the different flavors that you can get just from the base recipes and just from the wood, and then see all the different elements that you can bring together, or new ones that you can create just from bringing beers together like that. But not even on the stout side, hoping to do that too on wine barrel aged sours, trying to harass the owner to get me a fooder soon. So, see how that goes.
Yeah.
I think that's just a good thing to look out for. Blended variations of stouts, blended variations of different kinds of sours. Obviously, I like playing with different adjuncts a lot, so pastry boys can rejoice when we coming out with stuff like that.
Well, good. That's exciting, man. We're excited. We're excited for you. Thanks.
Yeah, excited to be here
Coming
and
on. Yeah.
share all these awesome giant scale homebrews with everybody. It's crazy fun. I'm still like really taking it all in. It's hard to it's hard to realize that you get your own giant playground and people are going to try your beers with you.
And that comes out then too, I mean, people notice that, so that's good. That's a good attitude to have.
Thank you.
And hopefully, when it's all over, we can all have a beer together.
That'd be great. Yeah. Stop by.
All right, so that about does it. Thanks, Eric, again for joining us. This was a blast. It was awesome to kind of hear where the direction that Whiskey Hill is going and where your career is taking the next chapter. So awesome. Again, thanks for coming in.
Guys, remember, it's just beer.
But it's pretty damn good.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers.